Right, we are live. Okay, so welcome, Erica, to the Inspired Idiot Show. Before I start kind of obsessing over you, I just want to explain basically why I wanted you to come on and talk with me. It is my belief that every quote successful person was once nothing more than an inspired idiot, like just somebody that knew they wanted to live an unrealistic life, didn't know how to get there, but they were committed to just fucking figuring it out. So that's who I make content for, is people that feel like an inspired idiot and feel like they don't know what they're doing, but they're like, I'm just figuring it out as I go. And you were one of the very, very few people that I connected with on LinkedIn that I was like, she gets it, because you post a lot about failures and low points, and you talk about like going from being a sex worker to being an entrepreneur and growing this big business and this big audience, and then filing for bankruptcy and starting over and moving back in with your parents. And that's the kind of shit that I think entrepreneurs and dreamers need to see more of, is not just like the 6 and 7 figure successes, but the lows and the failures and the like crippling self-doubt. So that's why I wanted to bring you on here, because I really appreciate that you're willing to share that side of it. And I think if more people were open about everything that goes into building a successful business, more people would actually get there because they wouldn't feel so alone in it. So that's why I wanted to talk with you today. So welcome to the show.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And you've been so supportive online with all my content for as long as I can remember. So I appreciate that. And I do agree. Like, I think that's one of my missions too, is to show the honest journey and not just the shiny side, because it can be very discouraging when, you're eating shit for breakfast every day and you think it's not the reality of entrepreneurship when in fact it really is. And people just don't talk about it.
Yeah, it makes it so easy for you to convince yourself that you're like, I must be doing it wrong, because everybody that I see online seems to just be like sailing through this, and it does not feel like that for me.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's awesome. Okay. So I wanted to ask you, like, first of all, I want you to just kind of introduce yourself. Like when people ask you today, who are you? What do you do? What do you feel like your story is?
Yeah, it's interesting because I used to always answer that question with, "Oh, I'm the founder of whatever." Like I've tied my whole identity to whatever I was doing. I've kind of done a lot of inner work over the past year and healing to try to separate myself and my identity. Like Erica Rankin's different than, the founder of whatever, building whatever. And I guess to answer your question. So right now I am building things. I'm a builder. I'm an inspired idiot, I guess you could say. And I'm someone who wants to show others that your past doesn't define you and it doesn't discredit you. And you can build anything you want with no resources. And I do that through a lot of the content that I post online. So I'm a content creator. I post on LinkedIn. I'm getting more active on other platforms like TikTok and Instagram. And I just like pulling the curtain back and having a transparent, I guess, way of showing people what the reality of figuring all of this out is, like life and entrepreneurship. But I'm also the co-founder of a new tech company called Doozi, which I haven't fully really announced yet. And it was kind of like we just trademarked the business last week. And it's basically like TikTok for travel. So it's a travel app where you can filter and sort through videos for, restaurants you want to go to, places you want to visit, itineraries, anything around travel. And then you can book directly through the app as well. So my co-founder and I are building in tech, and we have no experience in tech. And it's been a lot of fun figuring that out over the past month.
Yeah, really embracing that inspired idiot mindset then. I have no idea how to do this, but we're just doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I actually was curious what made you decide to, because you have quite a big audience on LinkedIn. I think you're just short of 100,000 followers. I was curious what drew you to LinkedIn, being that I appreciate it. And that's why I find it so easy to engage with your content, because to me, it is so easy to engage with because it's real. But in the LinkedIn space, I think that's why you stand out so much is because there is still a lot of like success business jargon kind of content. So what made you decide to focus on LinkedIn first?
It's interesting because it was kind of an accident. I never intentionally went on there and was like, I'm going to grow a following on here. I started posting on there in 2020, so it's been 5 years. And I only went on there because I couldn't grow my business. I launched my cookie dough business, Brodo. I did as much as I could on my own. I didn't have any mentors, advisors, friends who were entrepreneurs, had no one around me who was in the industry. And I remember going through my pantry one day and looking at different products that I consume daily. And I thought, I wonder if these people are on LinkedIn. And I looked up the founders' names. I found them on LinkedIn. I started engaging with their content and then I started DMing them. And then some of them became my mentors. And still to this day, like I'm friends with them and they're in my network. And when I was doing that, I thought, oh, like I'm scrolling on LinkedIn, I'm seeing all this like shiny, we launched into more stores, we raised money, I got hired at a new whatever, like just thing after thing after thing. And I was, going behind corporate offices, getting cardboard boxes because I couldn't afford to buy cardboard for my orders. I was storing cookie dough in my car all winter, driving with the heat off because I couldn't find anywhere to store it. Like I was doing all these things that felt weird and backwards. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this right. Like I don't have the money or the resources or the team. Like I can't be successful. I thought all these things. And then as I was getting on calls with different founders, I realized that so many of us were doing the exact same thing. You just didn't see it. And people felt awkward about sharing it because they wanted to appear bigger than they were. And for me, that didn't sit right because I don't know if I was still in the early days and I would love nothing more than to see someone share the reality of building a business, whether it be a food business or a tech business or whatever. There's a lot of overlap between all industries. Like there's the late nights, there's the doubt, there's the no's, there's, the things that go wrong. Like it happens in every single industry, but no one really talks about it. So I thought, okay, why don't I be the person that I wish I had to look up to? So I started posting stuff on there. And at the time, LinkedIn wasn't really a social platform. Like people weren't really posting. And I was posting videos on there. And the amount of times people would comment on my stuff and say, this isn't Facebook. Like, why is this on here? Like, we don't care. And it still happens. It happens less, I think, now, but it definitely does still happen. So I just started posting. And then with the transparency came a following. And I had this community of people that just really loved and supported what I was doing. And, it brought in a lot of opportunities. Like I was able to secure sponsorships through LinkedIn and make income through there. I could find marketing. I was doing marketing consulting. I was finding clients through LinkedIn. I launched a TikTok course. Like I was doing all this stuff on the side and leveraging the platform that I built with my business. So I was kind of doing them. They were working really well hand in hand. I never really planned for that to happen. It just kind of did. And I'm super grateful that it did because people don't realize the power of the platform and you have access to so many people on there that you normally wouldn't have access to. Like, Instagram and TikTok, there's celebrities and founders on those platforms and they're bigger and everyone's DMing and everyone's on there posting. But LinkedIn is still kind of this like little quiet place. It's getting more loud and there's more people on there, but you're more likely to get a response from someone, who could add a lot of value to your company or, have one piece of advice that could change the whole trajectory of your business. Like you never know. So I guess that was the reason why I went on there, was to seek mentorship. And then when I realized, wow, this place is like very fake, I don't want it to be fake, that kind of inspired me to start posting more honest stuff.
Yeah, that was actually like the biggest draw for me with like engaging with your content. And like it does seem like on LinkedIn there's almost like a gamification aspect to engagement. Like it's so heavily focused on engaging. And so you kind of start to pick up on there's a lot of engagement for engagement's sake. Like, and you can
Mm,
tell like there's AI comments, there's people that you can just kind of get a vibe that like I don't think
yeah.
this person who left this comment is actually that person. Like there's a bit
Yeah.
of a disconnect there. But I agree with you that like that's where I kind of saw parallels between the way I see myself and my content and what I see you doing is like you looked at this like ocean of inauthenticity and you thought, well, why don't I just be the island in that ocean? Like if everybody's kind of posting this certain way, why don't I just do it differently? And then, I might stand out by doing it my way. But I
Mm.
think what you said there about like, you driving around in your car with the heat off to keep the dough cold, like those are the types of stories that I find people don't share until they've like quote made it. They're like, "Oh, now I'll share my founder story. Now I'll share like the grind." But you took a different avenue where you're like, "I'm still in it and it's worth sharing now because this is what I'm actually experiencing and this is the kind of content that I needed to see."
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And then I guess piggybacking off of what you said with the ocean and the island, it's interesting because I have a lot of friends who are LinkedIn like influencers, and they have massive followings, like 5, 6, 7, 8 times mine. And it's kind of there's the virality strategy, and I tried it. It's kind of the same stuff that you see over and over, rinse and repeat, but it does work on the platform. And I was like, oh, I need to do this to grow. And I started doing it, and it just felt so inauthentic to like the stuff that I normally post. It just didn't feel like me. And um, what I realized too is followers doesn't equate to community. Like you could have a million followers, but if you go to launch a product and then no one buys, like what's the use in that? Like, are they going to rally behind you and support you? Do they know who you are? Or do they know the virality that you have put out and like it resonated with them in some shape or form? Um, and that's what I'm learning too is like just it's okay to build slow as long as you're true to you. And then you're going to have like a smaller community that are really going to rally and support you when you need them to. And I think that's way more important. People get so hot, like caught up on the numbers and they want to go viral. And it's like that dopamine hit too. Like you're getting all these views and impressions and comments, but it doesn't equate to actual support, right?
Yeah, it comes back to like, what do you actually want out of it? Because at the end of the day, I truly believe that nobody wants the impressions if it doesn't equal, like you said, community or sales or like whatever the bottom line goal is. But I think that, yeah, you see a lot of creators on LinkedIn that have, they get 500 comments a post and you're like, oh, I need to write posts like they do. But I actually found when I started kind of stepping away from like the templates and the post structures and posting like what I thought the platform wanted to see, like I would spend 2 hours on a post and then it would get, it would kind of bomb. And then you just feel like defeated, not because you put in that work, but because you're like, I put in that work and it didn't feel like me and it didn't
Mm,
perform. And then
mhm,
sometimes my best post would be the ones that I just wrote on the couch, just like spilling what I was going through or what I was thinking. And then I'd come back later that day and I'm like, oh, this post like popped off. It kind
yeah.
of made me veer away from like, oh, I need to post according to like these structures or I need to post about like other people's brands because that's what people say works on the platform.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I totally relate to all of that, and I've been there with a lot of video content as well on other platforms. Like I take the courses, I join the groups, I learn all the things, and it just feels overcomplicated and it doesn't need to be. And I think I do believe in energy and like the what you put out and your attention behind it is going to attract the right people. And I think it goes with social media content as well. If you're using heavily scripted, stolen content, then you might bring in people, but they're not the people for you, and they're not. It's not an authentic connection that's coming in because you're not putting out authentic content.
Yeah. I'm actually glad that you brought that up, like believing in energy, because I don't know if you found this as well, but I've found that entrepreneurship is a very like spiritual journey. Like it kind of forces you to become a very self-reflective person because it's all on you. So you
Mhm.
kind of have to start looking inward and being like, okay, if my business or my life isn't going in the direction I want it to, I'm the one who's in full control of that. And so I kind of started paying more attention to my energy and like what I was putting out there. And I'm curious for you, like being that you did recently make this big pivot and you've made a couple big pivots. What what kind of led you, like after you filed for bankruptcy with Brodo and you kind of reset, you moved back in with your parents. It sounds like you did take some time doing a lot of like inner work and really evaluating like where do I want to go from here? Where do I feel like pulled to? So can you talk a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, gosh, I had a mentor and he's a very smart man, but he said something that was not so smart to me when I did shut down my business. He said, "You shouldn't sit too long, like you should get into something." right away. Like you can, sit in the in between for like a week or two, but jump into something. Like you can't just fall into this like complacent kind of zone. So I kind of like processed, but I didn't really process for a week or two. And then I thought, okay, I need to do something. I need to build something. I have to like pick up everything again and redeem myself, I guess, and stay busy and not feel the feelings. Because really, when you lose a business, a part of you dies. Like your identity is attached to it. And the first one, the first cut is the deepest. So but I remember building this like marketing agency. I did like a whole brand. It was like called Your Branding BFF or something. I bought the domain. I did all the things, and then I started building it, and I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not enjoying this. Why am I doing this? This is so rushed. This isn't in alignment. And I hired a business coach, and he had a really interesting analogy where he said, if I gave you a glass of water and it had a bunch of dirt and sand in it, and it was all mixed up, how would you make it clear? And I'm like, oh, you would just dump it out and fill it with new water. And he says, no, you would let it sit and everything would come to the bottom. And right now, you can't see clearly. Like you have all that sand and dirt mixed up, and you haven't given yourself the chance to just let everything settle and come to the bottom. And I really thought of it, and I was like, okay, I just need to be okay with not doing anything and just tapping into like, who am I and what do I want for myself in my life? And I did a healing retreat in Mexico and did ayahuasca. And the question that I had was, okay, what am I here for? Like, what's my purpose? And I wasn't met with an answer. I was met with, these are all the things that you've buried in your subconscious about yourself, and you cannot evolve into this next chapter if you can't accept and face those parts of you. And I was like whack-a-mole with like old memories that I didn't even, it was just like, boom, remember this time? And I'm like, oh my God, didn't even, what? I don't remember that. Just, so I think like the past year has been a lot of revisiting, the past with sex work and the failed business and, moving back in with my parents. And I love my parents so much, but my mom sometimes, like she would want me to have a family, like a husband and a home and a 9 to 5 and stability. And she worries about me, and she comes at it from a place of love. But it used to really bother me when she would make those comments, because I have done so many incredible things in my life, but it never seems to be enough for her because it doesn't fit into those boxes that, we've been taught to put ourselves into. And that's okay. Like I just have learned to accept that she loves me and cares about me, and that's really all it is. But I guess going back to your question, I did a lot of stumbling. I tried doing personal branding consulting. I had, a new business partner, and things kind of went sour, and I had to get out of that. And then, oddly enough, my best friend, so I met her on Bumble in 2020 during the pandemic, Bumble BFF, because we both didn't have entrepreneur friends. And, I was in Ottawa, which capital of Canada, and there's so many government workers there. So all my friends work for the government. They didn't understand what I was doing. So yeah, we met, we became really good friends. We grew our businesses together, and I lost my business last year, and so did she. She lost her business. And we went on our annual Mexico trip in January, and we both, we're deep in our shit, figuring out like what's next for us. And we're like, why don't we build something together? And initially, what we were going to do was a marketing agency for businesses in the hospitality industry. So matching content creators with businesses. And I wasn't excited about it. It was like, I don't really know. Like, I'll do this with you, but I'll do it part time. I don't think this is like the thing for me. Like, it wasn't a fuck yes. It was like a, sounds like a good opportunity, but like, it's not really getting me out of bed in the morning. Like, doing marketing for restaurants and hotels is not super exciting for me. So anyway, so that happened. And then a month ago, we were on a call, and all of a sudden we just started, having a conversation around our problems with travel. And we started talking about TikTok. And then we're like, why don't we create an app? And then it went from being this marketing agency to tech. And we know nothing about tech, but after that conversation, I felt that spark come back that I haven't had in so long, that I first had with Brodo, and I never thought it would come back. And truthfully, I never thought that, I don't know, I would feel this way again, because when you lose something and then you're trying all these things, it's like, okay, I'm trying to build this thing, and then it falls down, and then you try to build something else and it falls down. And it's like, is entrepreneurship meant for me? Like, was that a fluke? Is it going to come back? Like, should I go get a job? Should I stop trying? But really, you just have to keep putting puzzle pieces together, and then eventually something's going to fit. And that's what this is. Doozi, our travel app, like, it just feels so good and so right, and I'm excited about it. And it took me a year to get here, but it was through like a lot of trial and error, truthfully, like just, and then letting myself more in the loss of my business too, and not rushing, because you can't rush into something when you're emotional and you haven't fully processed it, and then all the other stuff too. So that was a long-winded answer, but you know.
Nice. Yeah. Oh no. Oh, you're back. Okay. Sorry, you froze for a second there, but I got everything you said. I'm actually
Okay.
really glad that you brought that up. That like wanting to feel in alignment with what you're working on and wanting to feel like excited to wake up in the morning and do it. Because I don't know if you experience this as well, but I know when I first got into entrepreneurship, I was consuming a lot of like Alex Hermosi, Gary Vaynerchuk
Oh
content,
my
and
God. Yeah.
it's
Raw,
very
raw.
like,
Get shit done.
yes, it's very like, if you want to succeed, fuck your feelings, like get the work done. You know, if you follow your passions, you're gonna stay broke, and all this kind of mentality that like I think there is wisdom in it, but I really like just drank that shit up, and so I lived for like 2.5 years in that very like masculine energy of like my feelings don't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm excited to do this. This is a good opportunity. It's going to get me to the next thing. And in some ways, like I am still like that, and I'm just recognizing it now. But I'm curious to hear from another woman in business, because this does kind of sometimes come back to like masculine versus feminine energy. And I think as women, we really want to feel that alignment in what we're doing. We want to wake up and like want to work on the thing. But I think we're kind of taught to like shove that down and just do the work, and like your mentor taught you, like just get into the next thing right away. Your feelings don't matter. But I think that can sometimes take us down a road where you in the same way that sometimes like people work at the same job for 20 years and then they wake up and they're like, how have I been here for 20 years? I haven't liked it the whole time. So I'm curious to hear your perspective on that, like putting your head down and doing the work, and not giving yourself an excuse to run from struggle, but also honoring what you actually want to do. It's a hard path to navigate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. And I listened to all the same content that you did. I listened to, actually, the person who got me into entrepreneurship was Andy Frisella, and he has a podcast from forever ago called the MFCEO Project. And it was very much like, he had a saying that said zero options mentality, meaning like you just fucking do it. Like there's no other way. And I got it in a custom neon sign on my wall, and it was on my wall behind my calls. And I lived that way for so long. It was like, just get it done, go, like. And I think like it's just not sustainable. I got 3.5, 4 years into the business, and I was okay. I was like doing all right. And then shit just got really hard, and it just was so out of alignment for me. And I remember I have a group of friends who are all entrepreneurs as well. And we'd have like, I don't know, 2 calls a month. And everyone would be progressing in their businesses and would be excited and like you could feel the energy. And then when it would come to me, they're like, so, and I'm like, look like death. And I'm like trying not to cry and trying to hold it together. And it was just the same thing every time. And I remember reaching out to my one good friend, and I told him, I'm like, listen, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should keep going. I don't know if this is a sign. Like, it just doesn't feels like I'm there. I saw a quote as well, and it said, if everything is coming at you, you're probably in the wrong lane. And it felt like everything was coming at me. Nothing was going with me. It was coming against me. And it was like trying to push a boulder up a hill that was cemented to the ground. I was just like pushing and pushing, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And my friend, he's like, you should do this exercise, write the terms and conditions of your life. Like, where do you want to wake up? How many days, a week do you want to work? Who do you want around you in your life? How many hours a day do you want? Like, get as specific as you can. What do you want your income to be? How do you want to feel? Like all these things. And he told me, he's like, write it out and look at it. And if you're getting closer to that with what you're currently doing, then keep going. And if it's taking you further away, then you probably need to reassess because it's been like 4 years, over 4 years. And I did the exercise and then I made the decision. I'm like, this isn't for me. Like, I can't keep doing this. And there's also a big, I guess there's like this aspect of luck as well when it comes to business. Like, you have hard work, you have talent, you have all these things that go into it. And that's one piece that people don't talk about often enough is the luck and the timing of whatever you're doing, because the market might not be ready for what you're launching. There could be COVID, there could be all these things that are out of our control. And unfortunately, a lot of things were out of my control and I just couldn't keep going. So when I decided to shut it down, I felt this weight get lifted. And then I got on a call with my friends and they're like, wow, you're like a new person. Like, we don't even, like, you are lighter, you feel less stressed. Like, I don't feel this tense energy from you anymore. And when I also went to Costa Rica too after I shut the business down. And I met these two women and we were talking about this, the masculine versus the feminine. And I guess I was stepping into it newly at that time. I was like, how do I like approach business more intuitively? Because we're not built like men. Women and men are built very different. And I want to live a life that feels intuitive to me. And I don't want to have to like burn myself out and feel guilty for taking days off, because what is life if you live that way? Like, I want to travel. I want to, you know, go to a beach on a Wednesday and not feel upset at myself for not answering emails, or, I just want to have more balance. And that's been another learning curve for me, is just learning how to listen, when you're doing different things and following that feeling. And that's why even with the business idea with Doozi, like, that was a full, like, I could feel it. I'm like, this is a yes for me and I'm all into this. But all the other stuff, it was like, no, 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 I'm not just going to do this for the sake of doing it or to make money or to build my brand or get the recognition or whatever, if it's not in alignment, because there is something out there that is going to be more aligned and it's going to feel so much better when I'm building it. So yeah, I don't know if you can relate to that, but it's like this weird thing to navigate. It's like, how do I know when to quit? Because quitting, I think, gets a bad rep as well. Like, I think quitting is very powerful. I know a lot of people that probably should have maybe quit a little sooner, or they're just so stubborn or don't want to give up because they're worried about how people are going to perceive them. But the longer you stay doing something that's not meant for you, you're delaying what is. And you're really only hurting yourself in the end. So, yeah.
Well, and the tricky thing to navigate with it, at least the way that my mind thought about it, was like, there's a difference, I guess, or like, this is part of the challenge, is navigating, is like, where am I? Am I trying to run from this because it's hard and uncomfortable and it's stretching me? Or am I trying to run from this because it's out of alignment and it doesn't feel like the right thing? And I think where some of that like self-shame around quitting comes in is like, I don't want to quit doing this just because it was hard, right? And that's like, sometimes it's hard to even like take time to like sit and address that in yourself. Like, am I bored or drained out of this because it's hard and it's challenging me, or am I drained out because this is not the right thing? And I think if you are always in that grind mode of like, fuck your feelings, just do the work, you kind of lose touch with even like knowing that in yourself. So sometimes you do need to like completely shut off and just come back and be like, is this hard and uncomfortable, or is this the wrong thing and that's why it's hard and uncomfortable? It's not always easy to like identify that in yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why, like, I think it's important to pull back and just disconnect and not always be in it all the time. Like, go for a walk without headphones or any distractions, put your phone away, like, be with yourself and ask yourself, like, what do I really want? Is this what I want?
Mhm.
And I think I got pretty good at identifying, because I was so determined. And when things were going wrong, I was so like set on, I launched a product into retail. It failed. I lost $30,000 worth of inventory, but I was like, I'm not giving up. I'm going to completely redo the product and I'm going to raise money. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to launch it again. And it was just like, it just the cycle kept repeating. It just like wasn't working no matter how hard I tried. And then I realized, okay, so this isn't working. And I think there's a reason why it's not working. Like, I'm meant to be doing something else. And I think what's really helpful too is having conversations with people, like not too many people. I remember I called, I think like 5 or 6 people in the industry, and I told them my situation because it really was all around my finances. And all of them kind of said the same thing. And they're like, this is how much money you're going to need. This is what you have to do. Like, are you prepared to do all that? And just the thought of everything that I heard, I'm like, no, I don't want to do any of that. That's not what I didn't start this business to get here and do these things. Like, I don't want to go and raise $1 million and, like I didn't do this for that. So, I guess it just was a hard transition, making that decision. But then when I did, it felt right.
Felt liberating to let it
Hmm.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I mean, that's like a hurdle in entrepreneurship in itself, is like talking about the quitting and the starting over and the letting go of things that feel heavy. You don't hear a lot of people talk about that. Like, I shut down my business because it didn't feel right. Or I remember you and I talked maybe a month or two ago, and you had said that you were doing like a bit of ghostwriting or something, and
Mm.
you very quickly realized like this is not the thing. But a lot of people get into something and they start making money with it, and that's enough, especially in those beginning years. Like, once you start making money with something, it becomes harder to walk away and acknowledge like this is not the thing I want to do, because it's paying the bills right now and maybe it's going to get me to the next thing. So it's
Mm.
like that's a challenge in itself that I don't hear a lot of people talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. The money piece is definitely, yeah, a challenge. And then when you want to start a new business and you have no money to start it and you're not making money, like that's a whole nother story in itself, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to ask you actually, like, was there, it sounds like the you deciding to walk away from Brodo was a very kind of gradual process, and it got slowly to that point. Do you remember the moment that you decided, like when you were like, I'm not going to do this? Was that it, when you were talking to other people in the industry and you were like, I don't want to put in the effort to revamp this again?
Yeah, so there was 2 parts of it. So the first part was like notifying all of the retailers because my product was in hundreds of stores, and I basically had to say like, "Okay, you're not going to get our product anymore. You took all my money." But no, yeah, I did that. I remember sending the email because I had all those conversations. I did a lot of writing, I did a lot of thinking, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to send the email. And the first person I notified was my broker. So she's the one that like got my product into stores. And she's like, are you sure? Like, what's going on? I had no idea. And then I was just telling her about the reality of like my finances and how thin I was stretched. Like I was, 4.5 years in, and I was still spending like 3 days a week in stores, handing out samples, doing things that I, had hoped I could have delegated, but I just didn't have the funds to. And so yeah, so she was supportive, and then we notified everyone. And then the one significant memory that I'll probably never forget is being in my car. I went and I got an acai bowl, and I was just sitting in my car for probably like an hour. I was crying, and then I emailed my bankruptcy trustee, and I was like, "Do it today." And then he's like, "Okay, I'll do it." And then he filed, for bankruptcy for me personally, and that was a weight that was lifted too, because I had, I think, over $300,000 in debt. It was personally guaranteed. I had creditors calling me. I had a PI get hired by one of the creditors trying to find me and calling me. And I had someone show up at my dad's house looking for me, trying to serve me. And my parents didn't know what was going on. So my dad's like, there's a guy here. What's going on? And I'm like, oh shit. Now I have to tell him. Um, but once, I pulled trigger and made that decision, all of the noise just kind of stopped and I felt like I could breathe. But it's still like it was really difficult because, again, there's so much stigma around bankruptcy, and I felt embarrassed and, like I failed. And kind of going back to what you mentioned earlier is like I decided to share it when I was still like in the low point. I really haven't had my comeback yet. And that was something that I, went back and forth with in my head, was like, okay, do I talk about this? Because it's embarrassing and I'm not like back on my feet yet. I can't be like, oh, I failed, but look at me now, I'm good. Don't worry, everything's gonna be okay. If you failed, like you can be like me. Um, but I started having, conversations with mentors and friends, and I became the person that, you know, people referred founders to. So if someone was like about to file for bankruptcy or had, their business was like crashing down or whatever, like I was just getting all these referrals like coming in like left and right. And I probably had 10 conversations with different founders who were all facing the same road that I went down. And, some of them had their business for 30 years and they were older and had put everything into it and we're going to lose everything. And some of them had been around for a couple years. And I think like when I started having these conversations, I realized, wow, there's a lot of people out there that don't feel seen and they need to feel seen. And if I can be a voice and put my stuff out there and hopefully pull in, the right people and have conversations with them to make them feel like, hey, I went through this too and it fucking sucks, but you're going to get through it and it's okay. And even looking at statistics, like I think in 2023, over 200 Canadians filed for bankruptcy every day. Like it was a very common thing. It's just not talked about. And then coupling that with like business closures too. I don't know how many times I've thought, oh, whatever happened to that company? And then I go and I look them up and they're just like, they posted 4 years ago and they just ghosted. They just like, oh, we're gone. They never announced anything. They never shared the issues or whatever happened. They just disappeared. And, none of their customers don't know where they went. And there's no answers to questions. And I think I want to normalize the closure and, ending the chapter and communicating that because I think there's power in that. And then it just also reinforces the idea that, okay, like it doesn't always work out and it's okay if it doesn't because the first, one you hit isn't going to be out of the park always. It very rarely is. And you have to just keep getting back up and trying new things. And yeah, that was a lot, but
No, that was really powerful because I think that the stigma comes from the silence. Like
Mm,
you going through that, you hitting that kind of what I imagine felt like a low point and being like, okay, I have to tell my parents and everybody that I just filed for bankruptcy and the company's done. Like all of that, I can only imagine what it felt like to go through that basically alone. Like you had other people behind you and everything, but it was all on you. And the fact that you chose to show up and post about it while you were in it, not just when you came out on the other side of it, like I imagine that that's probably what really, really drew a lot of people to your content and why people still follow you now is because they're like, I saw Erica when she was at a low point. So when you, if and when, of course, when you do get to a point in your business that you're like, hey, look how far I've come, look at what I've built, like here's, a success story post, those people who came in when you were at your low point are truly going to feel like they got to follow along on that journey and they feel really connected to you now because people don't post about the low points when they're in them. And
mm,
then when you try to like bounce back or you come out with like a new product or a new service, like if you didn't share that kind of low point with people, I think they're a lot less likely to follow you to the high points. And this actually kind of reminds me, my last like corporate job, my last job that I had before I got into entrepreneurship was actually for a international like nutrition supplements company. So that was another thing that kind of drew me to your content. And the company was based in Canada. You probably know the brand or maybe did. And they basically shut down during the pandemic very abruptly in that like they
mm.
brought all 100 plus employees onto a Zoom call, fired
Wow.
everybody at once. And I was the marketing manager, so I'd kind of seen the writing on the walls, but they kept like assuring us, no, everything's fine, your jobs are
Mm,
safe. And then they just completely stopped posting. People couldn't order anymore. And I still had access to their social account. So I would see people posting, like, where are you guys? Like, where's my order? Nobody's answering customer service anymore. And now, years later, they're trying to come back and rebuild. And I think because they were silent and they weren't willing to share with people, like, hey, this is what's happening, we're going to bounce back, it's really, really hard for them to rebuild that trust now because they didn't take their followers along for that journey. They're like, no, we're not sharing the low points. We're just going to come back strong, when we're back on our feet. But now there's so much brand loyalty that's been lost because of that elongated silence. So I think there's a lot of power in not being silent about the low points and like taking people along with you for that, being like, this is the reality of what this looks like, but I'm getting through it.
yeah. I think I do know the company, by the way. That's crazy. Yeah, I agree. I think it also, I think there's been a pivot, or not a pivot, a, a evolution of branding when it comes to different companies, and the ones that are doing really well on social media are the ones that have stories, because people buy from people. And if you can make someone feel something, they're more likely to become a customer, because you're going to have a competitor come out and sell something cheaper always, or more convenient, or whatever. But what is the thing that is keeping them loyal to you? And they can't copy your story. They can't copy the emotions that you evoke in your audience. And a lot of people just aren't comfortable doing that, and they don't want to. And it could be because of ego. It could be because they're not comfortable being on camera or posting stuff on social media, because, you kind of pull the curtain back and it hits a vulnerable side of you that most people aren't comfortable sharing. It's like a muscle, I think, that you have to, you work it out and it gets bigger and easier. But I completely agree with you. And I think, again, the companies that do decide, or even the people that do share the highs and the lows and the in-betweens, are the ones that are going to build that loyal following. And even if everything gets taken away from you, your business, your social media, whatever, if you appear, you come back, they're still going to find you. They're going to know who you are. They're going to know your story, and they're going to want to be with you throughout that journey, because you were honest, and they respected that and appreciated that, and it resonated with them. So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like power in the failures, and that's really like my mission with this content, is to show more of those failures, because everybody sees themselves in the failures. Everybody,
Mm-hmm.
even like people that we look up to as very successful, everybody relates to that feeling of feeling like an inspired idiot because they were there once. So I think people relate more to the failures and the low points than they do the seven-figure successes, because maybe they're not there yet. So I think if you want to build something lasting and actually connect with people, it's you have to share that side of it that people connect to.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. So I'm curious, when you like, if you can kind of take me back to that moment when, let's say, like when your dad was like, "Hey, there's somebody here," and you had to kind of come to realize, like, come to, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like come to reality of like what was going on, and tell people about it and be like, "Hey, Brodo's done. This is what happened." Was there ever the thought in the back of your mind, like, I guess I'm just gonna go back and get a job? Or do you feel like that was just completely off the table still?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've never had a like cushion, like a salary, so to speak. Like I've never had, my first job was, um, I was working in a research department for a study, and I was making minimum wage, and then I quit that and then got into sex work and then pursued entrepreneurship. And I've never had like a regular job with a salary, and so I don't really know what that's like. So there's some things that I can't really relate to when people ask me like, "Hey, what's it like going from working a corporate job to entrepreneurship? How do you leave the money behind?" I'm like, "Well, I wasn't really making any. I didn't even have benefits, it was really awful, so I was happy to leave it." But I think in my head, I'm like, no, like, I don't think I'll ever go back to that. Like, it's just not for me. And even when I was working like a regular job in my early 20s, I looked around and was like, I feel like I'm meant for more. Like, I just have this feeling. And I'll always remember that feeling. And I talk with my co-founder, Jillian, all the time. And we say we're never going back to the 9 to 5. Like, it's just not for us. Like, we're going to find something that works. If it's Doozy, great. If it's not, it's going to be the next thing. The thing that I did struggle with was, like going to my mom's and listening to my mom, wanting me to get a regular job, and her saying that I'm unstable and why am I always traveling. And, I went to Texas, or where did I go? I went to Costa Rica, then I went to Mexico, then I went to Texas, then I went to Mexico again. Then I went to British Columbia, then I went to Texas again, then I'm now in Europe. Like, I'm always on the go. And coupling that with not having a job, like, I kind of let that get into my head and thought maybe I am wrong for trying to build something again. Maybe I should just get a job. And I had a friend who he shut down his food business too. And then he now is in the same industry, but working for like a big corporation. like multi-billion-dollar corporation. And he was trying to persuade me. He's like, just go get a regular job. Like you can save for a year. Like you know, have all the connections, the opportunities are there. Like just do it. And I did think about it, but then when it came down to it and like making a resume and like applying, I just sat there and I was like, I don't even know how to make a resume. I don't have a resume. I think I found a resume in my car glove box from when I was a kid, like in my teens. I remember reading it and I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is me. And I just didn't do it. I couldn't do it. So, yeah.
Just felt wrong.
Yeah. It wasn't intuitive for me. It wasn't like a fuck yes. It was like a no, 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 you know? And where I knew that like it wasn't the path for me is like when I was looking at job postings, I just kept looking at the salaries. I wasn't looking at like what the roles were or anything. I was like, okay, this is in marketing and this is a really good salary. Like I'm gonna go on and get this job. But then, you know, I don't think it matters how much I get paid. Like I wanna be doing things that I enjoy and that are helping me grow and evolve as a person. That I don't know if that would be in a company, building something else for someone else. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
especially in Canada, like I went through something similar where I had a moment where I was like, maybe I should just get a job, like not forever, just for a little while, just to like kind of be able to like breathe and like know that I have income coming in and reevaluate what I want to do. And there were multiple parts of that that felt wrong. I just felt like this is like getting into a comfy bed of like complacency. But I also was looking at the salaries, and in Canada, like we get taxed something like 40+% on income. So I
yeah.
literally started doing the math in my head and I was like, okay, so compared to what, I'm making right now, if I take this job and I make this salary, they're going to take off this much for taxes, this much for benefits. I'm like, I'm going to give 40 plus hours a week and I'm actually going to earn less money. But to a
Mhm.
lot of people, this would feel like the safer option because it's stable. So it makes so much sense, like why so many people lean into this. And my mom sounds like very much like your mom, that like she comes at it from a place of love. But I know even still today, if I were to call my mom right now and say, hey, I got a 9 to 5 job, she would like exhale the biggest sigh of relief and be like, oh, I'm so happy you finally came around. Because I think she tries to be really supportive, but I know deep
Mm,
down she wants for me what she thinks life is supposed to be.
mhm. Yeah, I can relate to that.
So for you, I know you said that you've kind of like put in effort to basically like find entrepreneurial friends. And at one point it sounds like you didn't really have that. So how did you kind of navigate that when you're like, okay, my family doesn't really get what I do. My friends work for the government. It feels very isolating when you don't feel like you have a community of people that you like genuinely connect with and understand what you're going through. So how did you kind of find that for yourself?
It's interesting because my closest friends I met through LinkedIn or I met them through being in the food industry. Um, like my two closest friends, one's in New York and then one is in Calgary, and I haven't seen them in probably like a couple years, but we talk like every week. And I think my one friend, Annie, so she had a chocolate company and she shut it down too. We kind of went through the same thing, but she found me through LinkedIn through my content. And then I think she posted about something and then I messaged her and then we messaged back and forth and then we got on a call and we just like hit it off and became really close. And I think from there it just kind of snowballed because like once I found I one or two people that I clicked with, and it kind of was a chain effect because then they had a few friends that I became friends with, and then I had a few friends, and then I kind of mixed everyone. And what I learned as well is I think it's a lot better to have like a couple really good friends in your life than have so many. And I guess try to maintain all those friendships because as you get older, and especially if you're building a business, you don't necessarily have enough time or energy to put into those relationships. So I made a conscious effort over the past year to really nurture those few friendships that I have and put in the effort and continue to maintain it as well because I know how valuable it is once you do find people that understand you and can support you and are always there for you. Even if they're not there for you physically, like we're on opposite ends of the world, but I know I could go to them for anything. Um, I really, really care about them and I want to make sure that we keep things going rather than being like, hey, I'll see you in a year or whatever it may be. But I know a lot of people struggle with it. And I think like social media, while it can be very toxic and very difficult to navigate, it can be such a great place to meet like minded people. And then you can meet offline and develop those friendships because it can go
Mhm.
such a long way.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to get your perspective on this actually, because you have grown a respectable following on LinkedIn. And I find that like as you kind of as people start to perceive you as more successful, it almost becomes harder to build those genuine relationships because it's sometimes like at first, and I'm sure like I can't even imagine the amount of DMs you probably get because I see how many I get and I'm like, this is insane. But it becomes harder to trust that like people are genuine in their connection with you, or like I find for myself sometimes I kind of low key suspect that this person like wants something from me. They're like, oh, they see that I'm working for this client or whatever, and like you kind of wonder if people are connecting with you out of genuinity or if they're being a bit opportunistic. So I think when you find those couple relationships that you're like, this person really holds me down, this person really like pushes me when I need it, they show up for me even when there's nothing in it for them monetarily,
Mhm.
those become rarer as you know, quote unquote, become more successful. Have you found that that's been something that you've kind of navigated as well?
Yeah. Um, yeah. I've had like a few situations. Yeah, you definitely have to have boundaries, I think. And I used to be so giving with my time, like too giving, where I was like a people pleaser and I was really only hurting myself in the end. And there was one person who, reached out to me. He actually, like, I bought insurance from him, like life insurance. And he invited me to a breakfast. I went, we talked, like it was fine, and he was super, super pushy with me to post about him and his business. And he wanted me to make a video for him. And it was just ask, ask, ask. And then I kind of just like, no, no, like, I will later. I will, And then I said, hey, like, I do this for money. Like, I'm a content creator and I do like campaigns for brands on here. And like, I'm happy to send you my media kit. And then he's like, no, I want you to do it for free this one time. Like, I'll pay the next time. And so there are people out there that do have like ill intentions or ulterior motives, I guess is the better way to put it. And you just have to have not like your guard up, but just be aware. And I also, again, like going back to the energy, like when I do have conversations with people and Annie and Carly, like my two close, really close friends, when I first started talking to them, like we were able to have a very vulnerable conversation, which I think is really important because a lot of people can't and they won't. And I think that also is very valuable in a friendship and just like taking it slow and building that trust over time too. And I'm trying to like still navigate that because again, like I don't know how people with like 500,000 or a million followers or whatever manage it. I'm sure they have a team like taking care of their inboxes and their posts and stuff. But yeah, it can be a lot when you have all this inbound stuff and there's only one of you and you know, yeah.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there with like the energy that you pick up from people when you feel like somebody is like ask, ask, ask. For me, it's a little bit of like a okay, I want to like step back from this. It's very bizarre. Like you are a stranger to me, so that's how I see it. Like I coach
Mm-hmm.
people on prospecting, um, or I've put out trainings on prospecting before, and that's like I don't coach people on anything like groundbreaking, but that's really the biggest thing is I'm like you have to remember that this person you're reaching out to is a stranger. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
coming at them with a very like ask energy, like even if you're just asking for 5 minutes of their time, you're walking up to a stranger and you're asking them to give something to you before you have given them anything, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
even just honesty and vulnerability. So
Mm-hmm.
it totally makes sense. But I think that's where I see a lot of people kind of go awry with like trying to build relationships or build a collaboration is like you're coming out the gate with an ask and that's very like off-putting to people. It makes you feel like this person wants something from me.
Yeah, I like the ask energy. It's true. And um What else? I think I used to say, build the bridge before you cross it. Because even for me, like when I was reaching out to people and looking for a mentor, I wasn't just DMing them and being like, hey, can you be my mentor? I was like commenting on their stuff. And, like uh, there's one brand that I really admired and I admired the founders and I bought their product and I sent them a picture of me like holding their product and being like, hey, like I'm a customer. I love your product, blah, 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 so, or sending videos or voice notes or just trying to like build that personal relationship with them before being like, hey,
Yeah.
so, and I think people just, I don't know, they like, and even with AI now, like it's just so, it's not human. And when I see comments on my posts that are AI, I'm just like, we know, we can tell, and I'm just not going to reply. I'm just going to ignore it. Like, you look stupid. Like, everyone knows.
Yeah. Once you've dabbled in using AI, you can smell it from a mile away. You're like, that
Yeah.
post is AI, that comment is AI, and I'm the same way. I'm like, it, the way that I see it is like if you couldn't take 5 seconds to genuinely engage with my content, I don't feel the need to take my time to, reply to your AI comment. I agree.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was going to say something there and it has completely slipped my mind now. Damn it. It'll probably come back to me after we
Okay.
hop off the call. But yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I wanted to just hear like what do you feel is next for you? Like I know you and your partner are working on Doozi. You're traveling for a while. It sounds like you're taking a little bit of a step back and kind of resetting and focusing on this. So what do you feel most excited about right now with this next phase of life?
Yeah. So I'm going all into content creation again. So when I built Brodo, that was the one thing that I was really good at and built the business was the storytelling, the behind the scenes building in public. And I tried to do a lot of content in between, like in the past year, but it's really hard when you're not building something. It's like I can't be like, oh, I can't take you behind the scenes of doing something or having meetings or this shit happened or this happened. It was hard, but now I feel like I'm building something again. We're building this tech app. There's a lot of really cool things that are happening, and I think it's exciting to share it. So today I put out like my first day in the life video on TikTok and Instagram. So that's like a whole new level of discomfort because I did LinkedIn for so long. I got, very comfortable with LinkedIn. I'm fine with sharing on there. But Instagram and TikTok has been so hard for me. I don't know why. Maybe because I haven't been super, super vulnerable on there or, really committed to content since my first business. So building in public, building Doozy in public, traveling Europe, and it's been really cool because as I'm traveling, like I can talk to people that are literally like our customers or content creators that are going to be using the app. So doing like fields market research, right? With my backpack in a cafe, in a hostel, and continuing to build community. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's what I'm doing is building Doozy and building in public.
Yeah, it kind of seems like a perfect way to do it, especially if you're staying in hostels, because it is like your primary customer is probably passing through those places. So it's like you're maybe kind of feeling like you're on vacation a little bit, but you're actually doing in-depth market research.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super cool. And it just works well and it's fun to take content and um yeah, get creative with it too because I haven't done that in a while.
Mhm. So what made you decide to like not just focus on LinkedIn as you always have been? What made you decide to start looking at other platforms?
So initially, when we were going to launch our business used to be called Jetgo Travel, and it was going to be that marketing agency. We put out a bunch of videos on TikTok that went viral, and we had like 4,000 creators sign up to our waitlist. And I think I realized I'm like, wow, this is like very powerful. This is just from like 2 videos in like a couple weeks. If we could hit that over and over and over again and like build community, then I think, this thing can really work. And with this now app, like most of our users are on TikTok because we're basically trying to build TikTok for travel. And we want to try to pull as many content creators that are in the travel space onto our app and then build the trust as well. It's also interesting because we did competitor research. So we were looking at all the other companies that are trying to do what we're doing. And there's one, and they raised $7 million like a month ago. And they're trying to do the exact same thing. And I talked to Jill about it, and I was like, okay, we're going to do this. We have no resources. We don't have millions of dollars, but we have community. And that is powerful. And we are both content creators as well. And I think that's the one leverage or piece of leverage that we have over anyone else is the storytelling and the community and the fact that we're content creators and we can understand like what they want and what we should put in the app for them. So I guess, yeah, that's kind of why we started building there, is because that's where our people are and we want to build trust with them. And, you know, rather than coming into their DMs and being like, hey, join our new app, it's like, we're two girls, we both lost our businesses. Now we're trying to build something new. Come along for the ride if you want, and like stick with us while we build this, and just trust that like we're gonna, you know, pay it forward to you when we can for believing in it early.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. Like the founding members kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I won't take up too much more of your time. I'm sure you've got plenty of things to do over there in Portugal. The last question that I like to ask is just what I guess if somebody came to you and they're like, "Hey, I'm an inspired idiot. I have this dream. I have no idea how to get there. I'm at a low point." Like if you could give them any kind of advice, what do you think you would pass on? Or even just like to your 5 years ago self?
Yeah, I guess there's so many things that I would say to myself, but I think like the biggest thing is like just keep taking steps forward. And like maybe the first step is Googling like what I did. I went to Asia for 3 months. I came home and then I Googled business workshop near me. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know what business I wanted to start. I just knew I'm like, I want to start a business. So this is the first step. So I just Googled and then I drove 45 minutes to a business resource center, learned how to write a business plan, marketing, cash flow, all that. And then the next step was, okay, like what's the business? And then figuring out. So I think people get in this place of like paralysis by overanalysis and they're like overwhelmed with everything that they have to do, but it's really just done in micro steps. You just have to do like, you take the first few steps that are in front of you and don't feel like you have to climb the mountain at once. And things are just going to fall into place. Even with this app that, you know, me and Jill are building, it just feels like impossible because neither of us have any experience in tech, but it's like, okay, let's get the trademark. Let's, you know, bring in the right people and figure it out as we go. And things are kind of just like clicking for us as long as we just keep taking steps forward. And even the past year before I got here, I knew I wanted to do something again, but I didn't know what. And I just kept trying different things because, you know, not everything's going to work right away. Maybe you are interested in doing something. You're like, I have this really great idea and I want to do it. And then you try it and you don't like it, or there's not no product market fit, or you know it's too expensive and you don't have the resources or whatever it may be. Like you're gonna try something else that's gonna work better for you, and you just have to keep trying and not stay stuck. And it's not going to be perfect either too, right?
Mm-hmm. But you won't know unless you just take those steps
Yeah.
and do it.
And it's going to be messy. It's like, yeah, and I always say like just stumble from one thing to the next until something sticks and it works, and then I'll stick with that and grow that and, you know, hope that that works out. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But yeah, I even like before filing bankruptcy, I remember sitting in a co-working space with a good friend and he's like, just do it, just file. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't really want to. I want to look at all my alternatives. And he's like, okay, Google famous people that filed bankruptcy. And I did. It was like Walt Disney, Milton Hershey. There was like 50 Cent, Donald Trump. There was like all these people on there. And that also was like kind of reassuring because even, you know, people that we look up to and are so successful have had so many failures as well. They didn't figure it out on the first try. So, yeah.
Nice. That's powerful. Okay. So if people want to find you, then you're obviously on LinkedIn, you're on TikTok, Instagram. What would be the best place for them to go to if they want to follow along on the journey that you guys are building?
Yeah. So our Instagram is Doozi. It's DOOZI.app. And my personal Instagram is accepting Erica with a C. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, Erica Rankin.
Nice. Okay, I will plug those in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on with me. I like you were saying before, with when you would reach out to mentors and brands and stuff, you wanted to connect with people that and show them that like you actually supported them. And the more content of yours I saw, the more I was like, I want to talk with this girl and hear more about her story and be able to share it with other people who feel like inspired idiots. So I'm really grateful that you took the time to come on, especially while you're traveling. It means a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey.
No worries. Okay, I'm going to hit stop.